Hi everybody, Sonia Funk here from The Whole Avocado. I'm going to be speaking today about the relationships between stress and our immune system and a little bit about the digestive system in the context of the situation we are finding ourselves in right now in the world with the pandemic. I'm going to start this off with a little story of something that happened to me quite a few years ago, just to demonstrate something here. So I lived between the years of 2006 to 2010. I lived in New York and also in London. London for 3 of those years. It's still one of my favorite places in the world. And during that time, obviously, that was post 9/11, but we all know that there was stuff going on and we were all still a little bit worried about a few things. So it was a thing to have my now ex-husband going down to work right beside where the World Trade Center used to be in New York, and then in London to take the tube down to Liverpool Station all the time, to be in Heathrow Airport a lot. So there's a lot of flights in those years. So after 4 years of that, we came back to Ottawa, and I remember we repatriated. We were done with the international stuff. I remember going to a coffee shop in Ottawa in a little area called Westboro, I think it was called. And everyone was like super nice. The person taking my order, the barista, there was just a super happy feeling. And after 3 years of coffee shops in London, as much as I love London, I was like, whoa, like, what's going on here? Why is everyone being so nice to me? And I all of a sudden felt this little bit of relief in my body. I felt a physical tension let go. And then all of a sudden, I felt a huge, invisible weight lift off my shoulders, where I actually was brought to tears just standing there waiting for my coffee. And what I realized was this unconscious, well, not totally unconscious, but mostly subconscious stress and weight of waiting for the thing to drop in London or in New York or whatever the next thing was going to be. And it was a physical release that I felt in my body. I felt happier, I felt lighter, I felt safe. I still get a little bit in my throat when I even think about that moment where I felt safe again. We've all had things in our lives where all of a sudden we feel safe again, and that's what that was like. That was probably for me the beginning of really starting to investigate the whole stress, mind body relationship, all those kinds of things back then in 2010, when it was just kind of starting to become cool. All right, so here we are. We have a pandemic. We have people that already were very stressed out, that already were not feeling good. We're already in a physical health crisis and have been for a while. Now we're moving towards a mental health crisis. And now we have the next big world crisis, and it is affecting a lot of people. I'm going to move into a little list of things here and points that I want to hit in this context, and I'm hoping that some of it's going to be helpful, whether it is for you as an individual and how you're looking at what's happening with your family, or for you as a manager or a business owner and what's going on with your employees. Because this isn't what's happening now, and the decisions that we're making, the things that we're doing for people or not doing for people, don't affect just right now. You're going to understand once I'm done with this that it affects probably the next year in your business. So some of this stuff I think is going to really matter to some of you. So let's talk about fight or flight and stress. We've all heard the term fight or flight a lot in the last few years. The basics to understand for what I'm going to talk about right now is this. When you move into fight or flight, you are anxious about something, you are panicking about something. What happens in your body, first you have a stress response that happens kind of more in your head, in your limbic system, in your limbic brain, and a few other places in your head. There's a few little signals that get sent back and forth, and I'm not going to get deep into the physiology of it because it just doesn't matter right now. Most of that stress response happens in your head, and it sends a message down to your adrenals. You get a shot of adrenaline, and that is how you're able to jump out of the way of a fast-moving car. And in fact, that process and those signals happen faster than you're able to visually process what's happening, which is why you can jump out of the way of a car that you didn't necessarily see coming. When the threat has passed, the car is gone, what's supposed to happen is the whole stress response gets shut down, everything's okay, and our heart slows down, we breathe. We might be a little bit shaky from the adrenaline, from some of the fear, and then we move on. When the threat does not pass and it remains, we move into a second stage of our stress response, which is more involved in the body. It still involves the brain and a few other endocrine glands here and there. But what that results in is the release of cortisol, more so than the adrenaline. And cortisol just kind of amps everything up to be ready to flee, to fight even longer, to sustain fleeing for longer. Now, at a very physical level, what you can feel and what you probably know to be true is when you're in this kind of fight or flight, all of the energy that your body had here in your digestive system, your immune system, all of those kinds of functions, all of that energy gets reverted to your hands, to your feet, to your brain, so you can think really fast, so that you can run, so you can fight. It's a great response 1,000 years ago and very valuable when you're being chased by a lion, or once every couple of years your village got attacked, or whatever it was. We don't live in that world anymore, but that system in our body hasn't evolved with our society. And when you have a lot of really angry emails, or you have a dysfunctional relationship that causes you fear, if your job really stresses you out, if someone in your life is really sick, or if you're constantly being harassed, or all the things that we all deal with all the time these days, if you're constantly on social media, you're constantly hearing bad news, all of these things trigger this fight or flight reaction in the body to some degree or not. So we end up being constantly bathed in the cortisol of that stress response, which it's like a circuit that just keeps tripping, because the low grade stress that's always there is constantly triggering it. That sets us up for a lot of the health conditions that we have. And if it doesn't directly set us up for it, it sets us up for a weakness in the body, so that we cannot fend off certain health conditions. I think the way I said that just makes sense. I hope so. So that is stress. The three universal things, and I got this from Gabor Mate, and I always hope that I say his name right. He wrote a great book called When the Body Says No. If you like what I'm talking about here, you might really like that book. The three universal triggers of stress are lack of information, uncertainty, and loss of control. And I did a presentation this last weekend at a small town here in southern Manitoba, and something that actually came to me while I was doing that, which I realize is probably pretty important, is this, with those 3 points. Lack of certainty, we all deal with in some way or another. So we're usually maybe here with lack of certainty. Now with the situation, we're up here. And then loss of control. I mean, we really don't ever have as much control as we really think that we do, but even having a perception of it can actually take your stress response down. But we've lost a lot of loss of control now with this situation, and we're now kind of moving indoors, and all the decisions that we're making, and we can't control what's going to happen to all of our loved ones. We can't control what other people are doing that may impact us. So there again, we might be here in a low-grade chronic stressful situation, and now you add this layer of the pandemic on it, and now we're up here. And then there is the lack of information. And while on a first layer or a first look at that, you might think, well, we have lots of information, so at least we don't have that. But I, of course, known as the avocado lady that likes to ask harder questions, I'm going to ask a different question about that, because I don't think that that's true. I think that there is so much information out there that there's actually less than there used to be. I almost feel like it would be easier for us if we still had the encyclopedia in Dad's library or office or whatever it was to go and find very specific information than to try to find real information on the internet. So it's like less would be more, but we have more, and so it has made us feel like less. So we're all just trigger, and the whole world is like, what's happening right now? So that means that we've got cortisol everywhere in our bodies. And that is a problem, because when you're in fight or flight and all the systems here shut down, your immune system is not as active as it should be. So we're all stressed out about this situation, and what's happening is the function of our immune system is coming down, because we feel our brains have decided, that little animal part that hasn't evolved yet, has decided that it is more important that we can fight or we can flee, or we might end up freezing, some of us, that's more important as a priority in the body than the immune system, because what's the point of fighting a virus if we're running from a lion because we might die? That leaves us susceptible to what is going on right now, and it leaves people more susceptible to the virus. It just does. So that's why stress management, like real stress management, not just going, oh, everything's going to be okay, because thinking positively isn't really going to be very helpful in a lot of ways right now. Thinking negatively and asking better questions to get better information to create some kind of certainty might actually be a better plan. So that is why real breathing, any kind of mindfulness type practices, real stress management that looks at the real picture so that you're not in denial of it, because denial of what you know fundamentally is really happening is a low-grade chronic stress trigger as well. So positive thinking, not done in a healthy way, can actually help make you sicker. Let's see, where are we with this? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate little video. I'm going to post it on my Instagram TV of something called the elemental breaths. I just find that they are really, really good. I do them in a lot of the wellness presentations that I do for companies or for the public. Just to breathe, it's a few different ways that you breathe. There's some imagery, mostly with nature, because even just thinking about sitting beside a lake, even if you're not really there, can trigger some better neurotransmitters that can actually help you feel better. There's some imagery and a few different ways of breathing, and the different ways of breathing, and I'll explain it more in that little video, inform the nervous system. That kind of intentional breath sends information to your nervous system, which sends information to how to manage a stress response. And that's why those things work. I'm still gonna start a new series called Unweirding, which is gonna be my new hashtag, on explaining why those things work just on a physiological, neurotransmittal, hormonal frequency kind of level. So I'm going to do that. I don't know if I'm gonna have time today, but I'm gonna do it tomorrow for sure. But what I want you to understand is that any tools that you have for stress management, for breathing, any access that you have, even if it's going to be online yoga courses, anything like that you can do right now is going to take the stress, even the stuff that you aren't necessarily conscious of, it's going to take it down, and it's going to send more of that energy back to your immune system, which is just, it's going to help you fight off anything that really comes. And if it is the actual coronavirus, or if it's the stomach bug that my puking 3-year-old had yesterday, it's going to help. Also, that's why this video was delayed, because I had a puking 3-year-old at home. Anyway, and yeah, this is just how I am. If you ever hire me, I will tell stories like that on stage. So anyway, let's see, what else do I have on my list here? I think that's where I'm going to leave this one for now. I'm going to do the breaths, and I'm going to talk about also coming up then after that one, I'm going to do something else on a perception and a way of thinking about the ups and downs that you feel in a way to reframe in your mind as well. It's called Hills and Valleys, Valleys and Hills, Valleys and Mountains. I'll decide on what I'm going to call it. And I'm going to do that as well. So if you want to kind of stay tuned, that stuff will be there. Yeah, let's see. And then tomorrow for sure, I'm also going to do another video here about a bunch of little ideas that I've had in my head, just practical stuff based on my background in nutrition, mindfulness, the counseling that I've just ended up doing, the health coaching, and the lifestyle tweaking and strategy. I'm just going to kind of run through a list of things that you could maybe try doing while you are at home with your kids or at home with yourself. And yeah, okay, so that's it for today, and I will post here again when the elemental breaths are ready, and we'll kind of go from there. All right, take care.